Yo, what is up, guys? Shinobi here, back again with another video for you guys. In today's video, we are going to be looking at a video called Bleach Inspired the Generation of Anime, or the Next Generation of Anime, and here's how. Now, I'm not going to lie, contrary to popular belief, because even with, stuff like this coming out, contrary to popular belief that Bleach is mid, and that it doesn't deserve the Big 3 title, or the fact that it's not popular at all, Bleach has once again, over the years, proven over and over and over again that now not only is it popular, but even in the 2020s, after it was gone for 10 years, it still can pop off. And I don't know about you, but there's not a lot of anime that come back from a 10-year hiatus and then just start popping off the way that Bleach has. Especially the way right now, bro. Like, Bleach is on a high rise between, getting the new game. And on top of that, we got 1,000-Year Blood War, Core 4 coming out with 7 new episodes. The Hell Arc probably going to be in a thing, like, pretty soon. And who knows what else. Like, we are absolutely cooking. Not to mention the last season being Studio Period's highest rated season for any anime that it's gotten. Like, absolute peak fiction. And then when it comes to inspiration, we already know that the authors of both JJK, Demon Slayer, and even My Hero Academia have admitted to taking some inspiration from Bleach in one form or another. So, I don't know about you, but it sounds like to me that Bleach has made a pretty big impact. Contrary to popular belief, we already know that Bleach hate is really forced, though it's not as bad as it used to be, it used to be back then that if you like Bleach, you basically, it was like, it was a war zone out there for Bleach fans a good 10 years ago after 2012, especially with all the false videos made about Bleach's downfall, how it was canceled, even though it wasn't canceled, it was put on hiatus. And then 2016, it was, announced that they're going to do 1,000-Year Blood War. And then obviously in 2019, 2020, or no, my bad, not 2019. No, 29. I think it was 2019 or 2020 is when they announced that they were actually going to do the first season of Bleach 1,000-Year War. They did that little short trailer. I need to look back at my videos because I think that's when they did it. But yeah, no, like, Bleach is back, bro, and it's here to stay. So without further ado, you already know what time it is. Let's go ahead and get straight into this.
Inspired the next generation of anime, and let me explain why. It wasn't just another shonen, it was raw, stylish, and emotional. A story that blended the supernatural with the spiritual, wrapped in sword clashes, slick pacing, and tragic flashbacks. And when Bleach first hit the pages of Weekly Shonen Jump in 2001, it didn't just arrive, it exploded, and its impact is still echoing through modern anime today. But over time, Bleach's name got clouded. It became the least respected of the big three. People mocked its pacing, pointed to the filler arcs, and said it never lived up to its early promise. And yet, something strange happened. Even while it faded from the center stage, its influence never stopped echoing. Because in the years after Bleach, a new wave of anime exploded, with Jujutsu Kaisen and Demon Slayer leading the charge. They weren't continuations of Bleach, but they weren't ripoffs either. They carried something unmistakable, a spiritual torch, a piece of Bleach's soul. JJK with its sleek fights, cursed spirits, domain expansions, and a main character who never asked to be special. And Demon Slayer with its emotional flashbacks, relentless tragedy, clean aesthetic, and sword-based squads, operating in the shadows of society. Their creators have also openly praised Tite Kubo, but the influence of Bleach goes deeper than words. You can see it in the structure, you can feel it in the themes, and you can hear it in the silence between punches, in the weight of what isn't said. So this video is about that legacy, about how Bleach became a blueprint and how its spirit shaped the next generation, and how Jujutsu Kaisen and Demon Slayer in their own unique ways continue to carry that torch. And without further ado, let's get right into the video. Before we can understand how Bleach inspired the next generation of
So we gotta get into the
Bleach
backstory, man.
Bleach special in the first place, because when it debuted in 2001, Bleach didn't just arrive, it exploded onto the scene, blending style, substance, and spiritual stakes in a...
Bro, Kubo, out of the big three, you cannot tell me, but I think it's pretty common knowledge. Probably, like, it's common knowledge that out of all the big three, bro, Kubo got it when it comes to fashion, bro. Kubo got it. And then I'm sorry, like, for anybody who knows a lot about Kubo, you already know that before he wanted to be a mangaka, he wanted also to be a fashion designer, which is why you got, obviously, all these great clothes and everybody's dripped out. So it's just like, I'm pretty sure I think he has his own clothing line right now for Bleach specifically. I think I saw some stuff like Bambietta's, like the clothes that he was showing off during the opening trailer of Bleach 1,000-Year Blood War Core 2. I'm pretty sure he actually made those outfits, or he got somebody to make those outfits. And, like, he even had them on display at one point. I saw some pictures on Twitter and whatnot. Like, The drip is going crazy, bro. The drip be going crazy for real.
A way that felt entirely new. Bleach did an excellent job fusing Japanese youth culture with supernatural battles in the afterlife. It had a world where high school drama could seamlessly transition into soul reapers and sword fights.
And that's the crazy thing. Is like, if you really look back, it didn't feel like it was really weird when they would go from like, oh, it's just usual high school shenanigans, and then to like, oh, we're fighting hollows now. Like, it just felt seamless. And I never really talked about that a lot when I praised Bleach, but like, that is pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. That's pretty damn good.
And this duality alone made Bleach feel unique, but its true influence ran even deeper. For one, Bleach redefined the idea of a power-up with Bankai. It wasn't just about leveling up, it was about revelation.
Yep.
Every Bankai was a psychological mirror, a reflection of the user's soul and identity.
Yep.
Power wasn't handed out
To
arbitrarily.
be able to have as many characters as Bleach does, and everybody have a unique ability, is like, that's nuts. Like, every single character in Bleach has their own unique ability. There's no two characters with the same exact ability. No two characters with the same exact Bankai. Hell, even the Quincy's in the Arrancar, nobody has the same two things. They might have similar techniques, like how they move and whatnot, but every single one has something that is different from the other. I'm not gonna lie. That's pretty hard to do. That's pretty hard to do, especially with all the characters they have in there. That's pretty hard to do. So, yeah, you're gonna be hearing me glaze a lot, I'm not gonna lie. Because honestly, Bleach deserves it. Because even in today's day and age, the hate that Bleach be getting sometimes, it's like, it's forced as hell. It's forced as hell. It's forced as hell. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie. In my opinion, Bleach, while it is a shonen, I'm not gonna lie, the way that it operates, it operates like a seinen. I'm not gonna lie. It operates like a seinen, not really a shonen. Because it's not like how Luffy and Naruto where a lot of them are kind of just like, they have a goal already off rip. It's usually some huge grandest goal, which isn't bad. And their personality is pretty much about the same to a degree. To a degree, Luffy and Naruto do have some different personalities when it comes to certain things. But, they got like the goofy, go happy, lucky thing versus like something like Ichigo, which was out of the norm and more focused towards teenagers more than kids because of the fact that he was more serious, relatable to some degree in his struggles. Not really his goals necessarily, but even then, his goal to protect his friends. I'm pretty sure everybody has that goal in mind when it comes to protecting their friends and family. I'm pretty sure that's pretty relatable. It's not a huge goal, but it doesn't need to be either. And then just the way that Bleach was and how Kubo doesn't just force feed you the narratives and everything like that. Like, for people who first read Bleach and get into it and they try to understand the story, sometimes depending on how they read it and how they interpret it, because everybody's different, it's one of them things where you'll probably have to read it a couple of times to catch on to certain narratives and stuff. And people today, even today, while reading Bleach over, people have been reading it for years, are still finding new stuff that Kubo's kind of just put in there. So that just goes to show you how unique this manga is, really, for real. It really is.
Thoroughly. It had to be earned, unlocked, and understood. It made every battle feel like a character study. And then there was Ichigo, a protagonist haunted not just by tragedy but by his own inner hollow. A dark double that was as much a threat as it was a source of strength. These internal conflicts weren't just metaphors, they were battles that played out on the page. Even Bleach's villains had layers. Aizen wasn't just a bad guy, he was magnetic, enigmatic, and terrifyingly calm. The Espada as well, they were more than just strong enemies, often being deeply tragic and philosophical in their ideals. Bleach didn't paint its antagonists in black and white, but it did it in grays, making their defeats feel just a little bit heartbreaking. And let's not forget Kubo's style with minimalist and elegant paneling, combined with
you gotta give it to him. And a lot of people, especially the people in the Naruto and One Piece community, try to shit sometimes on how Bleach doesn't do a lot of the background stuff. But I'm gonna be real. Kubo's freaking use of white space, it's freaking beautiful, bro. People out here trying to say that Kubo doesn't know how to draw backgrounds. He does know how to draw backgrounds when he needs to. But when he doesn't need to, because his main focus is supposed to be on the characters, he even says it himself, that's why he draws the background sometimes, which is, nothing there. He wants the focus to be on what's going on there. That's why he does what he does. But hey, it is what it is, man. It is what it is.
sharp dialogue that made even the simpler moments feel like more than just exposition. And I could go on and on, the use of negative space, the striking character silhouettes, even the way Bleach paced its fights. All of this together, the style, power systems, inner battles, and poetic antagonists formed a blueprint. A feeling that whether consciously or not bled into the works of those who came after. A generation of creators who weren't just inspired by Bleach's plot points, but by the vibe Bleach gave off. That's exactly what made Bleach so influential, not just what it said, but how it made you feel. And so in the next two sections, we'll see exactly how that blueprint passed on to the likes of Jujutsu Kaisen and Demon Slayer. If there's one modern anime that carries Bleach's spiritual torch the loudest and
It's
proudest,
definitely
it's
Jujutsu Kaisen.
From
Easily.
the very beginning, Gege Akutami
Easy.
hasn't hidden his admiration. In a 2021 interview with none other than Tite Kubo himself, Akutami openly said that Bleach taught him how to manage large casts and how to retire characters at the peak of their arc. Which, if you think about it, is such...
Which is freaking beautiful, because... Hey, not to say, you know... I mean, I'm not even going to say, because One Piece actually does this kind of well, too, but at the same time, they kind of just go from island to island, kind of leave some of those characters behind. But Naruto specifically had that issue. I think, no, I don't think Kishimoto said it, but Naruto has this issue where they have a huge cast, right? But only, like, maybe outside of Naruto and Sasuke, maybe, like, Kakashi, Guy, Tsunade, maybe, and the Hokage in general, really got any sort of, like, screen time or any real development. And if we're talking about the main 12 of the cast, outside, you know, Naruto, Lee, Tenten, whatnot, the only real ones that you see a lot of, like, during, like, Shippuden, or that get a focus on them during Shippuden, outside of Naruto and Sasuke, is maybe Shikamaru, thank God, Sai, because he was there to basically replace Sasuke to a degree, Yamato, kind of, and then I think Gaara, but that was only during that one arc. But then again, he's Hokage. Well, he's technically the he's technically the leader of his village now. He's not I don't know. I felt like he got enough, but like it's one of the things where they didn't really use a lot of their side casts after that first arc. I feel like in the first arc with the tuning exams, everybody was getting at least something. Everybody was at least getting something. And then after that, especially characters like Lee, like you really would think after that performance he did in the tuning exams that they would continue that, right? And then he kind of got just sidelined. Same with Neji. In fact, Neji, well, for anybody who knows, yeah, did my boy dirty, bro. Not gonna lie. So to be able to have, you know, some good conclusions to your side cast, pretty good in my opinion. Pretty damn good. And especially with a huge cast, especially as big as the one that Bleach has.
Such a specific and reverent nod to how Kubo handled the likes of Gin and Ulquiorra in their prime. And Gege's admiration goes even deeper. As a student, he made an entire tribute poetry book inspired by Bleach, showing just how deep his love for the story goes. And we'll see the hints of Bleach DNA everywhere around the world of Jujutsu Kaisen. To start off, the world structure in Jujutsu Kaisen is almost a mirrored echo of Bleach. The Jujutsu Society functions just like the Soul Society, an elite hierarchical organization that exists in secret, purging supernatural threats invisible to the everyday public. In Bleach we had hollows, in JJK we have curses. And the power system, that might be the clearest link of them all.
The domain expansions are basically
Bankai. Not in
Bankai.
a shallow power-up way. Like Bankai domain expansions reflect the user's soul, their philosophy and their true self. Each one is an extension of their identity, not just ability. That deep connection between who you are and how you fight. That started with Kubo and was refined by Akutami. Then there's the protagonist. Yuji Itadori doesn't just host a demon, he shares his body with one. Sukura's presence is chaotic, menacing, and at times tempting. And this to a small extent echoes Ichigo and his inner hollow. The duality, the psychological warfare, the sense that your greatest enemy might not be in front of you but inside of you. And this internal struggle, it's not just a gimmick, it's a storytelling engine. It forces growth, fear, trauma, and resilience. But Bleach's influence doesn't stop at structure or systems, it lives in the way Jujutsu Kaisen feels. The sharp silhouettes, the dialogue, the mid-fight conversation.
The white space, man. The usefulness of white spaces.
And of course,
Not I
villains as
appreciate it
well.
enough.
Bleach gave us Aizen and the Espada, beautifully dressed agents of despair, charismatic, dangerous, and complex. And JJK does the same with Sukuna, Mahito, and Kenjaku. These aren't just bad guys, they're commentaries on cruelty, fate, and the human condition. Akutami, like Kubo, asks questions through his antagonists, and often they're not questions with easy answers. But don't get me wrong here, JJK isn't just a Bleach 2.0, it's more of a spiritual successor, a series that takes everything Kubo pioneered, honors it, and reinterprets it for a new generation. It's not a copy and paste of Bleach, it's more like a continuation of its legacy. And next we have Demon Slayer, which is less overtly inspired by Bleach than Jujutsu Kaisen. However, the mangaka of Demon Slayer has still named Bleach as a key influence, and you can feel that influence not on the surface but in the bones of the story, being deeply woven into the narrative. Let's start with the Hashira, for example.
The Hashira, let's be real, the Hashira are basically the Gote 13, and then you got the demons who are basically the Espada. Let's be real. Let's be real. Let's be real. Like, we don't gotta go that deep, bro. Let's be real. Like, that, it's not a ripoff because they do it really well. They do it really well. But you can't tell me there's no inspiration there.
Ranking demon slayers. They serve a similar function to Bleach's Gote 13 captains. They're elite, they're emotionally complex, and their fighting styles are a direct reflection of their personalities. In Bleach, every captain Zanpakuto is unique, a sword with a name, a spirit, a form that's theirs alone. And in Demon Slayer, the breathing techniques are just as personalized. Water, flame, insect, sound. Each breath style isn't just a way to fight, it's an identity, a philosophy, and a story. These are more than just powers, they're expressions, and they're the first of many similarities between Demon Slayer and Bleach. Next is the enemy hierarchy, and here the parallels get sharper. Muzan Kibutsuchi leads the 12 Kizuki, a secretive centralized structure of elite demons, and Aizen in Bleach leads the Espada, former Hollows granted vast power. Both leaders are charismatic figures who aren't just seeking dominance, they're trying to transcend reality itself. Muzan wants immortality while Aizen wants divinity. Both are obsessed with overcoming the limits of their worlds. Even the structural breakdown is similar, upper and lower moons in Demon Slayer and Espada and their numbered ranks in Bleach. But the real connection isn't just in the format, it's in the themes. Both villains are lonely at the top, their strength isolates them, their ambition alienates them. And through them, both stories explore a painful truth.
That anime, bro, you're foolable, bro. You gotta give one thing to Demon Slayer, bro. That freaking animation looks insane, bro. Football need to be working. And can we get your football to work on Bleach? Like, can we get them on the Hell Arc, bro? Like, can we get something like that? Like, don't get me wrong, I love Studio Piron. They're doing a good job, but can we get them to work on Bleach, bro? I'm not gonna lie. That animation a little crisp.
It gets. Speaking of the villains, one of Bleach's most memorable twists was reframing its monsters. The Hollows were former humans, souls who lost their way, victims of grief, regret, and rage. Kubo believed that villains are a product of pain, and Demon Slayer takes that exact belief to heart. Every major demon that Tanjiro defeats is given a story, a reason, a memory, something that makes us pause and feel before the final blow lands. The show doesn't just mourn the dead, it honors them. We see their childhoods, their regrets, and their last thoughts. Even in battle, Tanjiro grieves, he kills but never with hate. And that level of empathy echoes Kubo's storytelling. So while Demon Slayer might not borrow Bleach's exact structure, it carries its essence.
If anything, actually, now I think about it, if you really think about it, even with Ichigo, too, like, yeah, no, he's basically, like, Tanjiro kind of operates in the same way as Ichigo. Like, he'll fight somebody, but he'll fight them to understand them. Hell, you even see that with, I think one of the greatest fights you see that kind of thing going with is with, Genjo, and hell, even with Gen. When Ichigo is fighting both of them, he really is trying to understand how they operate. And with Gen specifically, he couldn't feel nothing. He couldn't feel nothing, which was, you know, interesting. But that's just how well Gen was suppressing how, like, he actually truly felt in his plan. Like, he was actually going crazy with the double Asian stuff. And then with Genjo was literally mid-dialogue talking about how it would make sense if Ichigo hated him because of what he did and whatnot. But Ichigo is trying to more understand his situation and put himself in his shoes and see what, you know, if he was in his shoes, what would he do, you know? And whatnot. Like, Ichigo tries to understand his opponents through fighting them, basically. He's not really fighting them because he hates them. That's kind of how that goes. And even, like, something like Ukiura to a degree. Even something like Ukiura to some degree, he never really hated him. He always was trying to fight. He was just trying to fight, honestly. Like, he really was. And whenever he fought an opponent, he was always trying to understand them and how they operated, bro. It's crazy. It's a crazy parallel.
Bringing the tone of Bleach into the next generation. At their core, Bleach, JJK, and Demon Slayer are built on a similar emotional DNA, a set of themes that transcends the plot and speaks to something universal. Let's start with grief. These stories don't begin with ambition or glory, they begin with loss. Ichigo loses his mother, Tanjiro loses his entire family, and Yuji loses his grandfather. And from that pain, they all step into responsibility far earlier than they should have. They don't chase power because they want to win, they chase it because someone they loved is already gone. Then there's the theme of mentorship, but not the clean heroic kind. These mentors are carrying their own scars, they've made mistakes, and in a way they represent something heavier than just wisdom. They're the embodiment of generational burden, the idea that power must be passed down because one day they won't be around to fight anymore. But perhaps the strongest thread across all three is the cost of power. Power isn't free in these worlds. It hurts to become strong, it changes you, it isolates you, and sometimes it turns you into the very thing you are fighting against. These stories understand something vital, that greatness doesn't come from talent or destiny, it comes from sacrifice, from choosing to keep going when it would be easier to just stop. So these stories aren't just about good versus evil, they're stories about grief, about carrying on when it's heavy, about legacy and pain, and how power always comes with a price. And that's what makes them timeless. Bleach didn't just influence anime, it rewired the way a whole generation told stories. Tite Kubo gave shonen a new language, one that blended myth with melancholy, identity with inheritance, action with afterlife. He showed how power could be tied to pain and how heroes could be haunted by what they carry. And this blueprint didn't vanish when Bleach ended, it evolved. JJK carries Bleach's torch with sharp modern clarity, refining Kubo's spiritual world building and building even darker, more internalized stakes, while Demon Slayer is quieter but just as powerful, internalizing the lessons of tragedy, structure, and redemption, and remixing them into a different tempo. Both are modern titans, both stand tall on their own, but neither would exist in their current form without Bleach. And in that sense, Ichigo's journey never really ended. It now echoes in the fists of Yuji Itadori and in the blades of Kamado Tanjiro, because Bleach didn't just fade into history, it became history itself.
Wait, did Tanjiro become a dual wielder? When did that happen? I know I'm behind on Demon Slayer, but when did Tanjiro become a dual wielder? Is that just fan art? Somebody tell me down in the comments. Actually, no, look at that. He's holding 3 swords, my bad. Became Zoro. Zoro got into another universe again. Now, somebody actually let me know, though. Is that fan art, or did he actually become a dual wielder later on? Because I know in the anime right now, he's still using a single sword.
Tanjiro, because Bleach didn't just fade into history, it became history itself, and through these successors, its soul lives on.
Hey, pretty peak video, I'm not gonna lie. Pretty peak video. Pretty peak video. But yeah, no, I think he went over it pretty well. And honestly, he could have gone deeper, I'm not gonna lie. He really could have gone deeper, but for a short explanation, he did pretty well. He did pretty well, and I think now, especially as time goes on, and people, you know, especially newer people get into Bleach, I think Bleach is finally, once again, getting the respect that it deserved all those years ago. I think it's finally getting that respect that it deserved all those years ago. It'll probably never be the most popular anime on the planet, but it will never not be a household name either. It's one of them anime where it'll always be popular. And probably not the most, but it'll always be there. It'll always be there. Despite the hate, despite all the people trying to talk shit on it, it'll always be there, man. And inspiring new anime at the same time. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we see other anime, like, for instance, Kagurabachi. I wouldn't be surprised if we see something like that. And then the author talks about how it was inspired. He took at least some inspiration from Bleach. You can just tell by how it looks. You can tell how it looks, but hey, we'll see. But hey, great video. You know, I'll leave a like on that. You know, subscribe to him, all that good stuff. If you think his video is even more crazy, like, I haven't seen much of his videos. This is the first one I'm reacting to, but hey, that's pretty much gonna be it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Peace.